Powered by Riverside FM.
UP Nation, do you ever get tired of the lies and the false narratives out there about the Minnesota Vikings? I mean, man, they're just all over the place. You can look on ESPN, you can look on Fox, you can look on ABC, you can look on CBS, you can look at some of the podcasts out there from some of the national guys, and they all paint a picture of false narratives about our purple. I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of it. Tired. So today we're going to cover the 5 false narratives out there that just resonate with me, that just kind of spark some sort of emotion in me. The 5 worst narratives out there about our purple, the Minnesota Vikings. Man, the first one is Brian Flores' defense is too aggressive and it won't work long term. Now, they said that the first year that he did it, blitz rate over 50% at certain points during the season. Then he came back with it last year, and it seemed to work pretty well. And so when you can put 2 back-to-back seasons, especially where the Minnesota Vikings defense came from before Brian Flores took it over, I think that's a pretty good sample size. So everybody's kind of looking at what Brian Flores is going to do this year with the Minnesota Vikings. They're saying that it can't sustain, that it won't work long term. It's a false narrative that Brian Flores' defense is too aggressive. Brian Flores has done what he has needed to do for the past 2 years for the Minnesota Vikings defense. They have not been very strong in the secondary. So if you rush with 4, you're going to have really, really good quarterbacks that the Minnesota Vikings have played against that would pick our secondary apart. So credit to Brian Flores being able to understand the obstacles that were in front of him and creating a defense with exotic fronts and exotic blitzes to get, no matter who the quarterback is, to get them to think about, am I seeing what I'm seeing? Or am I seeing Casper, the unfriendly ghost? That's the genius of what Brian Flores is do. I've been on record saying right now, and I'm telling you this right now, you can take this to the bank. Out of the 3 years that Brian Flores is going to have been our defensive coordinator, UP Nation Purple Gang, next season, this upcoming season, he will have the lowest blitz rate that he's had with the Minnesota Vikings defense at the helm of being the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. You're going to see that defensive blitz rate go down in 2025 because he's got the pieces up front. He doesn't have to blitz as much. This is not something that he wants to do, UP Nation. But if he has to do it, he has to do it. That's the type of coach that Brian Flores is. So the narrative about Flores is too aggressive and that he can't sustain or his defense won't work long term, it's the biggest false narrative out there, man. Biggest false narrative out there. Another false narrative out there that I really don't understand. Like, I get certain pieces of it. I get certain parts of it. I just think it's freaking ridiculous, man. It's freaking ridiculous. Aaron Jones is washed up. Aaron Jones, this is fact. This is not emotion. This is not the fandom coming out in me in terms of the Minnesota Vikings, UP Nation. Anybody out there, whether you follow the Vikings or don't follow the Vikings, look up the stats. The stats don't lie. Aaron Jones is coming off his best season as a pro, statistically. Best season as a pro. He averaged 5.2 yards per carry. He had career numbers with the Minnesota Vikings last year that he's never achieved. Rushing attempts, total yards. That was Aaron Jones last year. Another false narrative built into that is that he was always injured. He was dinged up a few times last year, but he played in all 17 games. I think if you were to go to task with the national media or some of these national podcasters out there, man, they would be shocked. They would be shocked that he played in all 17 games. There are Packer fans that I talk to here in Wisconsin that when I bring that up, they're just floored by it. He never did that with the Green Bay Packers, but he made it through 17 games last year, and he put up really, really good numbers. Now, the one thing that you don't want in Aaron Jones is for him to be the bell cow. Like, you don't want him having 25 to 30 carries every game. That's a big workload for Aaron Jones. He has shown that when you give him that workload, that the body just doesn't hold up. So what did the Minnesota Vikings do? They go out and get my boy Jordan Mason from the San Francisco 49ers. That's a two-headed monster. But the narrative that Aaron Jones is somehow washed up, UP Nation, not even close. Not even close. I would argue that because he doesn't have to carry the load on his shoulders, you're going to see the best of Aaron Jones. False narratives. False narratives. Don't listen to all these false narratives out there. We're about to hit them today. We're about to hit all of these false narratives today. The third false narrative that bugs me out there is that the Minnesota Vikings secondary can't hold up in big games. I think when you look at defense, when you look at the defensive side of the ball, man, it's like a puzzle. Like, I think you have to get a continuous pass rush. And the more people that you bring to try to help that pass rush, you're depleting your reinforcements in the secondary. That is football one-on-one. And because we couldn't get that rush up front consistently, we put a lot of our corners on islands back there. And we had to do a lot of things with smoke and mirrors, trying to trick quarterbacks at the line of scrimmage, make them look like they were seeing something that wasn't quite there. I think that puts our secondary in a bad spot. It is why we went out and got some help. It is why we drafted the way we drafted on the defensive side of the ball. Now our secondary is not going to be on islands. Bringing in guys like Isaiah Rodgers, guys that are straight bump and run, press coverage, man-to-man type dudes, guys that are gritty and grimy. Don't let them go out and add someone the caliber of a Jalen Ramsey to be able to come in. Now you're allowing your secondary to be who the secondaries are built to be. And you're not bringing 1,000 people to the quarterback to try to generate a pass rush. Now those corners can be who they are. And that's the type of defense that you're going to see from the Minnesota Vikings. So I think a lot of the accountability was put on the secondary last year. And I'm not saying that they should be absolved of any accountability, but they got a little bit too much heat. Like, this thing goes hand in hand with the linebackers, the front seven, and then the secondary. If you can't get home on your own, you're going to need that secondary help, UP Nation. That's just football 101. That's football 101. And I don't think the Minnesota Vikings are going to have to play that way this year. Here's another narrative. JJ McCarthy doesn't have a strong arm. Here's what I'm going to tell you. And I won't address this for very long because I think it's a ridiculous subject. You go back and you watch. We're in the age of technology. You can find anything anywhere. Go Google it, YouTube it, whatever you want to do. Go back and watch JJ McCarthy's highlights in college. My guy Thor, for Father's Day, if you follow Thor on Twitter, go look at Thor's post on Twitter about JJ McCarthy being the father of the NFC North or something like that. And within that post, he posted a lot of highlights of JJ McCarthy just whipping that thing. If you can look at that video and you can look at those highlights and you see a weak arm, UP Nation, then something's wrong with you. You need to have your eyes and your brains checked, because I don't see any weak arm there from JJ McCarthy. He's a quarterback that can make all the throws. No, he's not 6'4", 6'5", 250, 275 pounds, throwing bombs all over the place. He's not built like Sam Darnold, but he can make all the throws. Sam Darnold could not. And then the last narrative that I hate, that the Minnesota Vikings are going to finish last in the division and be one of the worst teams in the NFC. Based on what, man? Based on what? They were 14-4 last year. They've upgraded. We went through it on UP Nation. We went through it. They've improved at every unit on the team. If you want to debate with me about the secondary, okay, I'll do that. That verdict remains out, but they've gone up and they've upgraded at every possible spot on the team. And if you think that JJ McCarthy is such a scrub that he's going to bring the Minnesota Vikings down to being one of the worst teams in the NFC, you're tripping. You got to be fooling yourself. There's no way the Minnesota Vikings will be one of the worst teams in the league, and the Minnesota Vikings are not going to finish last in this division. I am going on record. As a matter of fact, my last podcast was about who I think is going to win the NFC North, and it is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. But I just had to get on here and dispel all of these ridiculous takes, narratives, false narratives about our Minnesota Vikings. And I just had to get on here, man, and call them out and talk about them. Those are the 5 narratives that bug me the most about our squad and about our team. Man, this has been Unconventional Playbook. Please take the time to hit that like and subscribe button. It only takes a minute. It only takes a minute to hit that. Helps me stay in the algorithm and continue to pump out the content that I love to pump out to you. And as always, UP Nation, we are going to see ya when we see ya. Go.